Hello everyone! A few videos back I did a book review of this World War II era popular mechanics book, and among all the scary stuff that was in this lovely tome was an intriguing little tip about V-blocks. Naturally, I had to give it a whirl and see if it works, so hit that subscribe button and let's test it out. What is this amazing trick, you may or may not be asking? It shows holding two parts, one above the other in a V-block, so you can drill both simultaneously or use one to transfer a hole to the other. The parts I'll be holding are two pieces of 1/2 inch or about 13mm steel rod. The other component to this are 4 short pins that are used to make a secondary V-block to hold the upper shaft. And for those I'm using 3/8 or roughly 9.5mm dowel pins. Presumably, these side pins also pinch the lower part, since there's no other way of clamping it. I'm also using a small brass pad to keep from scarring the workpiece with the clamp screw. That's not part of the tip, but it's just good practice. I'd also like to point out this other tip from the book that I didn't notice before, and I quote, "Nuts and bolts that are exposed to the weather may be prevented from rusting by applying a coating of asbestos roofing cement to the threads of the bolts before tightening the nuts." My grandpa always told me that he preferred white lead on bolts, but to each their own, I guess. While I'm pointing out other stuff, though, I'd like to welcome my newest patrons over on Patreon, Mark T., Peter Davidoff, Greg Tucker, and Lee Gilly. If you'd like to help support the channel like Mark, Peter, Greg, and Lee, head on over to Patreon. The link is down in the description. Back to the V-block trick. I found it very hard to handle everything. There's just a lot of moving parts to this assembly. The biggest issue was that the dowel pins act like rollers, and it's very difficult to get the top part to stay still, especially when clamping. That's another good reason to use the brass pad. Without it, the rotating clamp screw tends to make the upper part roll around. The lower part is very hard to get tight as well. You can do it, but you really have to press down on the dowel pins to get them to grab, and I can only press 2 at a time. Originally, I was assuming the side pins would get pinched down against the lower part when the clamp was tightened, but that just isn't the case. The dowel pins I'm using are not flat on the ends, so I tried facing the pins to make the ends square to see if that helped. That did seem to make quite a difference, actually. Another option would be Shim Stock between the parts to fill in this space. You'd need to use feeler gauges to get the correct thickness for your shims. This brings us to the most important question. Why would you ever use this trick? The scenario mentioned in the book is transferring a hole location from one part to another. I can easily imagine having a broken or worn out part with a hole for a cotter pin or maybe some tapped holes in it. I've drilled a hole in the end of this piece to illustrate that. You can find the hole using the correct drill bit. This will also orient the hole straight up and down. With a square or 1-2-3 block, you can get the lower part even with the upper and clamp them together. Then it's just a matter of drilling through the lower part. If you only have a drill press or a hand drill, this would be useful. But if that was the case, would you be likely to have a V-block? I'm not sure about that. Let me know what you think of this trick down in the comments section. Ask me any burning questions you'd like answered while you're down there. Hit the like and subscribe buttons if you think I've earned it, and please consider supporting the channel over on Patreon like these super cool folks right here. You might also want to check out these other videos. On the right is my playlist of quick machining tips. On the top left is my most recent video, and in case you haven't seen it, the book review video that spawned this one is in the bottom left. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.